For a while I built up a pretty decent sized record collection. The giant artworks, the great sound quality on many albums, and the rush of finding them made it a pretty fun hobby. Over time though, I realized I was looking at my records more than I was playing them, and then one day I realized that I was playing them only a couple times a year. So I sold off most of my records and I rebought a lot of them on CD. I can say that my CD collection has become easier and less stressful to manage. Buying records could be great, but it came with a lot of aggravations that I definitely do not miss now that I'm barely buying them. So, the first aggravation that I don't miss is the price. The thing about collecting anything really is that if you do it hard and long enough, it can get expensive. That can be part of the fun and appeal too. Some people have spending limits on their records, maybe they go by an entertainment budget each month. A typical record might cost about $20. If it's a double LP, $30. New CDs are usually in the $10 to $13 range, so you can still buy used vinyl for cheap if you look in the right places. There's just no guarantee that they're going to sound good or play without skips. When I downsized my record collection, I had every Ramones album on vinyl. Somebody bought the first 6 from me, and I took that money and bought the entire catalog on CD. You might argue that the better sound quality is worth the extra $5 to $10, and you're right. That's why I've kept my absolute favorite records that I knew sounded better than the CDs. Point number 2, buyer's remorse. Normally I'd buy vinyl in the hopes that it sounds better than the CD. That being said, I have heard plenty of albums that sounded like garbage. They come in all shapes and sizes. Tape-recorded albums with digital sources for the vinyl, damaged master tapes, the engineer unable to resist the urge to play with the EQ. I even bought a Sabbath album from the 1980s where I actually preferred the CD. So even if you do your research to make sure you're buying a good sounding pressing, you could still be disappointed. I'd rather regret buying a $10 CD than a $20 record. Wondering if the mail will lose or damage it. Extreme hot and cold is bad for records. Records can warp in the heat, or they can warp when they warm up from the cold in room temperature. So I've had to worry about the heat in mail vehicles from time to time. If I wasn't home when the albums arrived, I worried about the albums getting too hot while they were sitting on my porch. At least with CDs, they'll sit in the shade of the mailbox and aren't quite as sensitive to temperature. A CD could still get damaged in extreme temperatures, but at least they're a little more resilient. We've all had packages get lost in the mail. It happens. When you have an expensive record on the way though, it's infuriating. I've had packages arrive with the envelopes ripped open and boxes that looked like a train ran over them. I would rather have a $10 CD be damaged in the mail than a $30 record. Hoping the seller packed everything correctly. Given how the post office likes to abuse packages sometimes, things need to be packed properly. This is especially true with a fragile music format like vinyl. Anyone selling vinyl needs to be sure that the record doesn't shift in the box. But most importantly, they need to remove the record from the sleeves so that the record doesn't shift around and cause splits in the spine. Most of the time you can ask the seller to do this if it's not already listed as their policy. Some people will ignore this request though and ship it with the record still in it. Pretty frustrating. It got to a point where I was sending damaged records back because it shouldn't be difficult to follow simple instructions. They might reply with, "Oh, well, we don't remove the record because it's brand new. If we open it, it won't be mint as advertised." Yeah, that's fine and good if you buy it in person, but records are made to be 150 and 180 grams, so a heavy album shifting around will not make it not mint. You know? I would rather have an open sleeve than a damaged sleeve. Hoping I'm getting the right record color. This can be minor or major depending on the album. Collectors could want every variant of an album they worship. Some people just collect colored records because they look cool. But if sound quality is what you're after, a clear black record will sound better than records in other colors. So you could buy what you're hoping to be a black record, and you'll be sent a yellow album. You can live with it, or you could send it back, or you could sell it. But that's one more step that you have to take before you can be happy with it. This gives more reason to ask the seller to remove the album from the sleeve, so that they can confirm that you're getting the color you ordered. Having to clean the records before I play them. Used records might be dusty when you buy them, but even shrink-wrapped new albums can have some residue from the pressing plant. If you don't clean the albums before playing them, the needle could push that dust even further into the groove. Sure, the record crackle is part of the appeal for vinyl listening, but if there's too much dust in the groove, that can cause the needle to jump. Being careful with the albums. I've already covered the temperature topic. In order to prevent scratches and fingerprints, you have to hold the record a certain way. The same is true for CDs of course, but it's a little easier for them because they're smaller and you can get an easier grip. You have to dust the record off and keep the right tone arm weight when playing them. Even when you're not playing them, they have to be stored upright and preferably in a way that they don't lean on each other. There's a little more leeway with CDs. You can place them in just about any fashion you want on almost any CD shelf, or any shelf in general. Just make sure that the discs are in the case, that way they don't get scratched. If the case breaks, you can replace it easily, but there's no replacing a record cover. Having to make storage space. To have records, you have to have crates or shelves that can fit them. The more records you have, the more space they take up. It creeps up on you over time. So if you have hundreds of records, that's a lot of furniture that you have to use.
Moving!
I've moved with 200 records before. They were heavy and annoying. Now imagine someone with 1,000 records. That's a lot of boxes. With CDs you may have hundreds, but they're not as heavy and you probably won't need as many boxes. Moving can be frustrating to begin with, especially when you have a friend that's careless with your stuff. You don't want somebody like that dropping your music, especially your expensive vinyl. Sure, they can bang up and chip up the Amish furniture all they want, but break my autographed album, and someone's ass is grass. Having to transfer albums that didn't come with codes. Most new records come with download codes, but if they don't, I'll have to do a transfer. The album has to play in its entirety, they're separating the tracks, and there's noise removal if I want to do that. I want to play my music anywhere I go, so I'm not going to not have it digitally. Now you might ask, oh, why not just buy the record and the CD? I would rather just buy the album once, and transferring an album is time consuming. CDs can still be aggravating. You still have to do your research before you buy the albums, you have to deal with sellers that overgrade the albums, and you have to deal with bootlegs. But overall, I feel like, there's less annoyance collecting CDs than there was with collecting vinyl. I can't do away with my records completely though, because some of my records are original mixes that never made it to the CD. There might be some vinyl-only songs on there, and plus there's the whole record experience with the sound quality and changing sides. That's still pretty cool. But if you give me $50 and put me in a used CD store, I can stretch that $50 out. There are plenty of reasons to collect physical media, but I just choose to be more practical about it. Grind on.